Hello and welcome to SoulSchool. I'm Theolyn Cortens, and this is the fifth in a series of mystical wisdom videos and blogs all about getting to know the Archangels. If you haven't seen the previous ones, then go and catch up with them. And also in parallel, I've been making a series of my short Signs and Wonders videos where I cover the Archangels in more detail. So check those out as well. Now, in this final one in the series about getting to know Archangels, I have to deal with a very tricky subject. And it's not only tricky psychologically and spiritually, but it's very challenging from the point of view of theological history, if you like. And this is the topic of fallen angels. Now, over the years, when I've given talks about angels at workshops and public lectures, so many people have put their hands up and say, but you haven't mentioned the fallen angels. And I always have a kind of inner kind of tummy response to that, because it's such a big topic and it's such a difficult topic to deal with in a short space of time, because the whole issue of fallen angels hinges on a very ancient division between certain groups who felt that God was in charge of everything, including good and evil, and other groups of people who felt that good and evil were two opposing forces and that they were in constant battle with each other. So this is a very ancient problem, and the stories of the fallen angels, even though some of them were actually excluded from the biblical texts that you may be familiar with if you've got any Bible studies at school at all, you actually won't find the fallen angels there, not in the old Hebrew Bible. There are some references to Satan, the old dragon, and so forth, at the very end of the New Testament in the book of Revelation. But the idea that some angels fell from heaven because they followed an archangel who's often referred to as Lucifer, who decided that it was better to rule in hell than serve in heaven, according to the poet Milton. The idea that those angels all went off following this leader who wanted to set his own kingdom up in opposition to the kingdom of God, that is a very difficult tale, because it divides theological opinion between those who believe that evil is or challenges to the necessary harmony of the world, those challenges, and one wants to avoid using the word evil, let's just call them challenges, to the harmony, are actually necessary part of the harmony. And if you look at the Taoist concept of yin and yang, you see there that complementary and potentially opposing energies will interact with each other, but they both have their place. And when you take a holistic approach to the tree of life model, you can actually see that as a conceptual diagram showing you how energy flows from active to passive, through equilibrium, but that both sides of the tree are necessary. And on one side of the tree, you've got the severity of God, who's not that friendly sometimes, but nonetheless is not evil. Now, the story behind the Kabbalistic traditions about the tree are also very long and very complicated. And it's certainly true that some versions would say that the left-hand side of the tree is, perhaps they would use the word evil, that the left-hand side of the tree, that's what I would call the yin side of the tree, was actually a negation, something difficult. And as I said, it's such a long and complex theological argument about the nature of evil. And it's pretty much impossible to deal with in a blog or a video. But I come down in favour of the idea that the opposites, or the contraries, as William Blake would put it, are both essential for creation, and neither of them can be classed as evil. And of course, if you look at these energetics in creation from an archetypal point of view, it's well embedded in many traditions that some of them are evil, not just challenging, but they're definitely baddies. In traditional astrology, Mars and Saturn are described as malefics. That means they offer evil or badness, but male is a Latin word, not very friendly. More than not friendly, actually dangerous and unpleasant. Now, my suggestion is, and the way I look at it from my own philosophical point of view, is that these energies are not good or evil. They're beyond good and evil, actually, and that the good and evil labels have been put on them by human beings who respond and react to them in a particular way. If your house falls down in a tornado, as the roof is blown off, you could say that that's evil. You don't like that. It's not a great event. But I don't think there's any evil wisher behind it. And it is actually part of the natural world that occasionally there are tornadoes and occasionally human beings have their houses blown down. And even when it comes to the very, very dark nature of the human psyche, which expresses itself in war and in the very unpleasant and difficult treatment of other human beings, which is invariably labelled evil, then we must actually address that issue in a holistic way and say, if there is something in the human psyche that wishes ill for another human being or other creatures in general, then that is a shadow of something inside us, a shadow of something that potentially is truly bright and glorious and hasn't found its expression in some positive creative outlet. We are also aware that people who commit and repeatedly commit dark deeds quite often are damaged people in some way or another, and that they are expressing their anger and their rage in such a way as to release themselves from the pent-up energy that has accumulated in them over possibly years. And they may even be acting something out that's been in their family or their tribe for generations. And it's in the collective, and it is being expressed just as the pent-up natural energy in the Earth's crust will erupt as a volcano. We can see also that emotional trauma can erupt in an individual person or in the collective as what people describe as evil. It's such a long, deep subject, and I don't think that I can do it justice in this short video. I've written a bit more about it in the blog, so do go and look at that. But rest assured, there aren't evil forces out there wanting to get you. There is no devil or Satan. There are powers, psychological or spiritual powers, that can lead to certain behaviors. But we humans can take responsibility for our own shadows. We can take responsibility for what happens in the world. And we can become what writers have called merchants of light. And a merchant of light wants to shine that light in all the dark corners, not just to chase away the, quote, demons who might be scuttling there, or the gremlins. We don't chase them away. We have conversations with them. In the Tibetan system, you offer them milk and honey, and you say, what do you need? What can I give you? How can we be reconciled? Because those gremlins or demons or whatever you want to call them, those shadows, they want what you and I want. They want love. And since there's an infinite and boundless field of love available, then when we share it and we reconcile the old shadows within our own psyche, then the darker events that can unfold in the human condition, in the human way of functioning in the world, could start to lift. And it would be like seeing the world through new eyes. It will be like seeing the world and everything in it through the eyes of love. So I invite you to read the blog. I invite you to think about what I've just been saying, and if you've got any comments to add about it, please put them on the chat box. And I'll be back before long to talk about some of those universal qualities of love, wisdom, power that are represented on the tree of life as the top 3 sephirot, with the archangels that guard those immense gates of light. So for the time being, keep well, keep joyful, keep shining, keep loving, and I'll be back before long.